agenda. Okay, awesome. Thank you for being here. I invited Mike McKibben also. I just figured I'm going to start inviting him for anytime he wants to join in. I thought it was good for us to see him and know him. We know him all by email, or a lot of us do, because he is our newsletter editor, but he doesn't usually come to the meetings, nor have we invited him. So I thought I would extend that. And if you think there's anybody else that we should invite on a kind of regular basis, let me know, because um, I think it's good to it was good to have him here. Um, is Ginny here?
Yes, I'm under the SBJ leaders because I think I was logged into it for Cincy and then it's think
Oh, no worries. I wondered. I was like, oh, who's that? And I was like, oh, there's another co-host. This is perfect. Would you mind, since Ruth isn't here, would you mind just kind of jotting some notes or taking notes for the meeting?
sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm asking you because you did it last year and you know what you're doing. So, um, okay. So we got a lot to talk about with the national conference. So I want to just kind of quickly just remind everybody about the dates of the upcoming meetings. First Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Um, from now on, I think they'll all be at 6 p.m. I don't think that it could be, but when we get later in the year, we might have to change them. But I really like the new time. I don't know if everybody else does. I like meeting earlier. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Has it been working so far for everybody?
It's all the same for me because it's like in the middle of class.
That's true. You're in a it's a
I'm in the
daytime
West
for
Coast.
you.
Yeah.
I do want you to know that all know that I just took a 45-minute nap before this meeting. Like I had to do a power nap really quick so I could be alive today to do this. But I do like the earlier times.
Wait,
Sorry?
okay, so I'm starting grad school in May, and my class is on Tuesday evenings from 5 to 8. Oof.
Okay. You tell them that you need it to be changed. No, I'm just kidding.
I just realized that. And we start on May 19, which is a very random date. But I don't, hmm.
Is it a summer class?
It is a summer class, and it's like a
So does it only
prerequisite.
does it
Um,
just go through July? Is
it
it one of
goes
those?
through August.
Wow, May through August. Okay.
So I should be able to make the first May meeting, but I don't know if I'll be able to make June or July or August.
Okay.
But like I can, when we get closer to that point, I can chat with you guys further, like once I get more information about like the class, the schedule, what we're doing. And also see if there's like any like catch up that I can do on this end. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, hopefully we can make it work. If it's only 3 months, like we can certainly catch you up on everything. And maybe you and I could meet ahead of time if there's anything like for me to bring up for you to send, I'd like you to have at least a presence there, even if you're physically not there. So we'll figure out a way to work that out.
Sounds good.
Sergi, do you have numbers?
Hi everyone, I do not. I'm driving. I had emailed Crystal for the numbers. Apparently they have the new database system set up.
Yeah.
Um, it's it, I logged in today and it is well I'm horrible with estimations, but it's nowhere near what we have. If I can guess it, I don't know, 100, 200 members, if even that. So I'm going to email her because it didn't seem like it was a full month that our meeting was. So I waited till today. I think our last meeting on the third or fourth. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
it's the
anyway,
first Tuesday of every month, and it was the 4th of March. Yeah.
okay, yeah. So I was looking at it and I was like, it's not a full month, but still, it'll get us I said, let me ask anyway, just to get us, a ballpark figure, even though it's not a full month. I waited to actual, today falls on the first. So she said, basically, we can start pulling out the numbers ourselves. And when I went on, it's nicely laid out. I don't know if anyone has taken a look at it, and I don't know if everyone has access to it. I mean, just for myself, I have access to my chapter, SPJ Louisiana, and Freelance Community. But like I said, so I downloaded, I looked, there was some names, it had email address. It was nowhere near comprehensive as like in comparison to what we normally have. Because normally, there's addresses. It tells us whether they're part of any other chapter. So it just seems, and like I looked at it. I just wanted to make sure. I looked at it right before the meeting. Some kind of based off of memory, which I have done. But I believe it was just name and email address. And it looks nicely laid out, but it's just, like I said, it's nowhere near complete to what I had. And I said, and there's a button that says download the contacts, download your roster. And I said, okay, well, maybe what I'm looking at is not what I think this is. So I downloaded it, and it downloaded, at least on my computer, into a notepad file. It does ask, it says that it's supposed to download it to Excel spreadsheets. I don't know if that's just me, but what was downloaded reflected what was on the screen of what I saw. So to answer your question, no, I do not have any numbers, and what I saw for April is nowhere near complete. So I'm going to touch bases back with Crystal to let her know what I'm seeing and kind of figure out what the new system is all about. I don't know if anyone else got a chance to look at it, but she said that you can access it through your dashboard, your member ID, your member dashboard. I don't know if everyone has access to this. So I just have a lot of questions, and I'm going to touch back with Crystal.
Okay.
So no numbers, but
yeah, I saw that was coming. I wondered how that was gonna impact. I hope that that's just a temporary, like, that we didn't actually drop.
Right.
So we'll see how that pans out for next month.
I don't think so. That would be catastrophic for 1 month, because I don't have specific numbers. Like I said, I'm driving, but we normally hover around 509, 512. Maybe Hazel has the answer, because I sent her all the rosters starting in January for the year. So Hazel has those numbers. She might have them at her fingertips right now. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm driving. I usually have precise numbers. But we normally have around 509, 512. Sometimes we dip a little bit before, below 500. So I really don't think we dropped all of those ones. Like I said, I'm eyeballed it. It looked maybe 100, 200, but it looked nowhere near what we normally have. So I think it's just a matter of whatever they're doing to set up. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but no, I don't have numbers for this time, and I'll touch base with Crystal to see what's going on.
That's no worry. We'll do another update once this gets up and rolling. We'll do another update for the in May. For the freelance, were you on the email? I noticed that someone was answering the freelance community email. Was that you, Sergi?
No, that was Hazel. Thank you, Hazel. I saw that email from Kyle. He was looking for opportunities. He's based out of Texas.
Right.
Hazel got to that email before me. Thank you, Hazel. I wanted to chime in but I didn't know. This really didn't answer his question, but I was just wondering whether he was connected with his local. I think he's out of Austin. Whether he was connected to the Austin chapter, but I did go on their website, and it didn't seem like it was up to date. I don't know how active they are, so I didn't know, because I know Hazel she answered his question. He was basically looking for opportunities, and she sent over the newsletter information, and so I wanted to chime in and ask him whether he was connected with his chapter. I didn't know if that'd be helpful or not, so I just but she answered it, and last time I checked, because I was looking to see if anyone wanted information for the meeting. Last time I checked before I got into the woods, I did not see anyone. And there was some other stuff that wasn't relevant for me to bring up. So
so with a new month, James, we have you on the community email this month. Are you all set for that?
I just need the login information, and once y'all give me permission and everything, I can just pop in there and help anyone out who's on there.
Hazel, didn't you figure out how to add somebody with that new, you didn't either? Oh, I don't know how to do
wait
it.
a minute. Yes, I did. But
Yeah, it used to be super easy, but like trying to add a new number was like trying to break into Fort Knox for some reason. Um, but you didn't, yeah, you worked it out with either Ginny or Sergi. Ginny, maybe.
uh, I
I think it
I
was
don't.
Ginny, was it me? Like I'm praying that I went back to my old laptop. Like I have all these tabs open, and I said that as long as I keep my tabs open, I won't be able to worry. I won't worry about getting back into the Gmail. But I'm not sure if I have actual access if I was to try to go into another computer. So but I did see the security thing alert, and I believe that's when Ginny or whatever. But it was definitely wasn't me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was when it was coming to my number and I didn't know it. And I got mad at my daughter because I thought she was trying to access something when she shouldn't have been on her phone at night. And I was like, it was Ginny. So
Sorry,
I thought it was,
Stacy.
it's okay. Oh my God, don't apologize to me. I thought it was funny. I was like, what are you doing up there? Um, so that if you do try to access James and it says if it asks you for a code or it'll say send it to a phone number, choose the number that ends in 20. That's my phone number, and I will get an alert to say, here's your code, and I'll send that to you. But you also have to send me a text that says, hey, I'm trying to get into the email. I need this code. It's coming to you right now.
Okay.
So my number ends in 20. Yours does too, though, Ginny, right? Maybe. I
Yeah,
don't think
it
I'm the
does,
only.
but I don't think mine got added.
But yours didn't get added, right? Okay. So Jenny and I do have the last two digits. You can only see the last two digits of phone numbers, which I also think is a mistake in there. Not I think it's an oversight by the whoever set this, not, like the platform, because lots of people have the same last two numbers. So anyway, this 20 is me. If you don't hear back from me, it's I probably didn't get it, or just depends on what time of day, but I will respond to that and give you the code. So let's just work on it, James, trying to get you in there. In the meantime, just over this next week or so, I can go in and check the email, and Hazel, until you can get in, until you're definitely in, we'll make sure we're keeping an eye on the email. For next month, I have Ruth. She's not here. I'm assuming that will be okay. And then Nicole for June. Are you still okay with that, for Nicole?
Yes.
She might have stepped up.
Yes.
Oh,
Sorry, it
okay.
took me a second to get unmuted.
Oh, that's okay. Does anybody want to take July right now while we're here? We can do it next month. It's not a big deal. It's still a few months away. I want to move on
Do
and
you want
talk
me to
about
do it again in July, or I don't know if you want to wait to someone else?
No, we'll go back around if anyone who hasn't done it wants to jump in for July and August, but if not, if any other
August.
people don't have time, then we'll just go back around and I can do it again.
I can do August.
August, okay.
I
I'll
I
put
was
you,
gonna say I could do July, but I'm kind of nervous because I really did have trouble last time, and then
yeah,
by
no, I hear you.
it out, it was like on the end or whatever. But as long as I
Yeah,
can,
and I think we're probably like Alexandra's not here. But if she's at our next meeting, if she wants to jump in, if not, I'll put myself back in there and then we haven't given up, Ginny. We'll figure this out someday. I want to talk about the Media Fest, our presence at Media Fest in DC. I don't know if everybody was here. I can't even remember right now the last meeting, but we're gonna have a whole freelance track at this meeting, and that was something that Michael Koretsky suggested. We jumped on. Nicole and Michael and I have met and talked about this. We did not meet a second time. We will do that, but we haven't done that yet. And we have, Nicole, is it 12 sessions that we could produce? Is that the number?
Yeah, it's up to 12.
Okay, so we could do up to 12 sessions. That does not mean we have to do 12 sessions. But it's pretty awesome that we have that option to do many. We usually, for James and just a reminder to everybody else, we usually do 3 or so sessions each year at the conference. Sometimes we've had 4. There was one on a conference where we haven't had any. We pitched a bunch and not one of them got accepted. San Antonio, if anybody needs me to, not that I'm harboring any bad ill will over that. Anyway, we still put on some pretty great sessions. We just did it on our own. But this year they've extended this to us that we could have our own room, and I am thrilled and I'm gonna run with it. So I want to talk about, I have a Google Doc attached. I linked to it in the session ideas, and there's a link that says MediaFest 2025. You can click on that and you can see some of that's actually also at the end of the agenda. You can see some of the sessions, but I would love to right now just maybe spend 10 minutes at least or so on talking about which of these sessions we know we want to do. I've just thrown the initials after them are just whoever came up with the idea, because if somebody puts an idea in there, I want to know that it was your idea so that I can ask you about it, or if we start talking about it, we know if you're not here, oh, that was Solomon's idea. Well, we'll reach out to him. So just put your initials after. If you do have any, you don't have to add any, but if you do have any to add, please do that. So like Hazel did, Hazel just added one recently. I'm going to pull this up on my end. Do you want me to share this with y'all? Is that easier to?
No, I
I
can
just
pull
said,
it up on my end. I can,
okay,
'cause I
sorry
have it
about the
open.
y'all I just said. Okay, so I took the ideas that we had for webinars and just put them over here, basically. So Alexandra isn't here, so I think that one is probably going to be a webinar. Maybe it does end up being a session too, but these are for the April webinar and the May webinar. I think we know we want to do that. I'm not sure if Alexandra is still planning on doing that. I am planning on doing the May webinar, still coordinating that. So some of these other ideas, obviously some of them aren't specific enough, like where to find story ideas. We can really flush that one out. Mastering the freelance hustle, time management, productivity tips and tools, international freelancing. That could even be something that we reach out to the international community on, for a speaker if we decided we wanted to do that. And then there's just, I'm not going to read them all to you, but there's just a few, some of them like breaking into freelancing as a young journalist. That was an idea by James. Oh, I didn't see. Did you guys just add these? No. Did you? Solomon?
No, not just now.
This must have been from last meeting. I never even really went back and looked at it. I think I do remember this now. So Ruth came up with inclusion and diversity in freelance work, the work-life balance, freelancing and time management, which I think Sergi and I could both present and learn from. So either one of those. Trying to keep our lives.
Absolutely. By the way, I have a great whatchamacallit, AI story that actually I think might have converted me, Stacy.
Okay, we have to pause. I want to hear it. What is the story? Tell me.
Oh my goodness. So you know that game show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Yeah.
So I realized that I am not smarter than a fifth grader. And so I am struggling with fifth grade math homework. And in my desperation, I typed in whatever it was, homework help. And apparently there's like AI things out there. And I put in, you have to type in the exact word problem, and like within seconds, it was so creepy how I got a full step-by-step breakdown of this problem. And I thought of you immediately, Stacy. I said, dang it. This is what Stacy's been talking about. So it's been immensely helpful. And now I am actually forced to use AI. I'm managing editor now, and we just hired a copy editor. And the CEO turns to me and he says, "Hey, what do you think about AI?" And I said, "Well, I despise it. I despise it, but the homework help." I told him the homework help story, and he said, "Well, and I was about to say, I worry about it taking people's jobs, and I didn't even finish the sentence. He said, "Well, I'm getting rid of our copy editor. We're now going to have to run our stories through AI." So I was like, "Oh my goodness!" So
Oh.
I'm continuing the love and hate. Well, it was all hate,
Okay.
but now I
Yep.
have a little love for it, Stacy.
Okay, I love that. I love that. I don't agree with firing the copy editor, but I do love that.
Oh my goodness!
It is still
Right?
going to make a lot of mistakes, and I use it every day.
Yes.
I use it. I
Yes.
just went to last week. I went to a workshop, an 8-hour workshop on AI in education. I've got another one to that in May. And what it can do for our education system is untapped, and it could change it could change everything. It could bring equity and equality to education. So there are companies out there like, have you ever heard of the Khan Academy? That's kind of
Yes.
a,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's like a,
Absolutely.
so you'll see that you can you can hire like a private tutor online, right?
Yes.
Like for your kids. My kids in algebra 2, I'm
Right.
not going to pretend that I know algebra 2. I don't remember any of it. Um, and she's struggling a little bit in it, and she knows that. She's like, I just don't get this. She excelled in algebra. Algebra 2 is a different story.
Right.
But so
Right.
um we could get her to, I actually have asked her and she's like, absolutely not. She goes, I'm gonna have somebody sit there and talk to me and tell me how to do this. And I'm like, you literally need somebody to do that, but whatever, that's a different fight. Um, but Khan Academy, I just watched a TED Talk on this, and they are saying, what if everybody in the country, well, in the world, if every child had access to a private tutor? So Khan Academy
Right.
has set it up that way that you can have access to a private tutor. Now, theirs are still paid, and there's a lot that are still paid, but there is AI out there that you can use that is not paid. So let's talk about the
Yes.
mom who is working 2 jobs, got 3 kids at home. They need homework help, but she doesn't get home until midnight
Absolutely.
and she's working.
Yep.
Who's going to help? Someone with 5th grade math, the 11th grader that's
Yes.
babysitting, that's also doing her homework, right? So
Right.
I think that there is a lot of untapped potential to help. This isn't like, do my homework for me, please do this. It's
Right.
how do you, a
Right.
lot of like Khan Academy's AI will never give you the answer. It will never give you the answer. It will ask you another
Mhm.
question and have you do it another way and give you another tool, give you another step to do it and work you through the problems. But there's a lot of stuff that if we could introduce it to kids in schools, it could change a lot for kids who
It,
really want to do well but don't have the resources,
it,
and
it
I
was it
again will
was
say,
absolutely amazing. My skin crawl. I mean, it was like within seconds that I
mhm,
got a breakdown
mhm.
step by step. I was like, wow. I was
Also, Sergi, so
gobsmacked.
I want you to go in and play with it and just ask it, say, give me 10 story ideas or give me 10 story angles for whatever topic you're working on right now.
Oh
Look
my
for the
goodness.
story, ask it for story angles, because here's the thing. We could come up with some really good story ideas. It's not going to write it for us. You still got to do the work and go do the research and the interviews, but
Right.
you might be missing an angle that you like, oh my God, that would be great to cover. That would be really good. There are so many
Mm-hmm.
great ways to use AI as a journalist and as a teacher, as a human. I'm having it plan my road trips for me in an efficient way. And I'm being really specific. I
Wow.
had it plan it's planned my April trip with my kids. I'm taking them to the West Coast of North Carolina for a college tour, but I've never really driven down through that way. And so I told
Right.
AI that I'm going to leave on this day from this city. I have to be in this city on this day. I want to spend 3 days in this city. And I said, please give me an efficient driving route that takes me pretty direct. And I really want to see any geological or paleontological stops along the way. And it has got me to
Wow.
2 different caverns that I never heard of, did not know about, and I looked them up and they're outstanding and like, yes, you absolutely have to see these. I wouldn't have known it. I don't even know. You don't know what you don't know. I don't know what I'm even looking for, like in a part, so I'm having it plan trips for me. There's so many different ways you can use it. So I'm
I
even
have
more of a
I
something
fan now.
related to that.
Go ahead, James.
So I went to Sunshine Fest a couple weeks ago. It was really great, but there was a guy who built a platform that uses AI to help people write FOIA requests. And this panel went even further and said that government institutions should implement AI in the FOIA and records request processing to get rid of keyword searching and to make that process more smooth. Um, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm typically not a huge fan of AI, but the arguments were like really interesting because they were like, obviously we still need humans to like look through these requests to redact things and whatnot, but like just that physical like searching through records and making the fulfillment of request better. And this it's called FOIA Friend. And like I don't know, having a robot write my FOIA request, I love writing FOIA requests, so to me, but that is out there, and that is an argument out there, and could be a potential tool for a journalist.
Yeah.
So I'll throw it in the chat, but it was an interesting argument.
Yeah,
I'm actually gonna
I
put that
noticed
just so,
you definitely need that human element because I remember like when they sent me that article to because he said, hey, just run it through. So I had to run it through and it bungled the article. Thankfully I read it before he said, hey, just post it online. And someone said just read. He said I ran it through AI and he's a big proponent of AI and I'm like, no, whatever. Thank you so much, sir. And then I ran through it and it was completely bungled, except for have you guys, I don't know if you guys watched John Q. Washington, the movie with Denzel Washington. There was an error in it and AI caught it. And I caught it because I actually went into IMDb and I was kind of checking it, just manually editing it. And AI did pull information from the internet. It was accurate, but I definitely it needed that human element to kind of tweak it. But I definitely saw the advantages of it. I thought of you, Stacey. I was like, I hear
love
you.
it.
I hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
But I'm not
And
completely sold, but
well, I
it
will.
definitely homework.
I
Way
have to
better.
I have to give students this warning too. So I'm teaching students how to use AI to help them. And they're using it to come up with how do they explain in 2 bullet points what they do at Taco Bell. I don't want you to waste your life sitting there thinking about if you're a welding student, I don't want you to think about how am I going to write this about Taco Bell. You are going to plug in all the things that you do at Taco Bell, and then you're going to ask for 2 bullet points, and it's going to be done in 10 seconds, and you're going to move on with your life. You're not getting a grade on a resume. You need a job from a resume. So that's what we're doing. I also tell them if
Right.
I'm like, I'm always like, does that sound too fancy? Like, do you like the way it sounds? Would you ever talk like that? And if they're like, no, I'm like, okay, let's say, and then I say, okay, write it like a 12th grader. And then it writes it like the way they would talk. They're like, okay, yeah, let's use that. So
Really?
oh yeah, ask
Wow.
it to write it like a 5th grader. You can literally ask it anything and it will do it. I will tell you though, as we're using AI, as journalists, as humans, as teachers, as students, I use it every day and I find every day that it is not, I have a paid version of ChatGPT and it still is not 100%. It's not even close to 100% accurate, but it's not accurate. Everything
Really?
that you get from there. So it might give me a resource. Like I was looking for resources to use to teach a lesson on hair discrimination in
Right.
my cosmetology class. And I want to use a children's book. I'm using the book Hair Love by Matthew Cherry, but I'm also looking for a
Yes.
couple other books, something else. And I was asking for what resources. So I told it what lesson I was going to do. And I said, what other resources could I use? And it gave me a couple different ideas. One of the ideas, I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. I searched it up. It does not exist. So then I went back to AI.
Really?
I was like, I can't find this one. It doesn't look like it exists. Is it even real? And it says, oh, no, doesn't look like that one is real. It will respond to me and acknowledge its mistake. But I'm like, oof,
Right.
okay. So, and I also did this with give me 10 poems to introduce high school students to poetry. And it gave me The Road Not Taken by Langston Hughes. And The Road Not
Right.
Taken was written by Robert Louis Stevenson. Langston Hughes was a
Oh.
civil rights poet, very different poets. But if I didn't know that, if I wasn't also a poet or an English teacher, I might just, if I was, just a
Right.
beginning teacher or a high school student, oh, I'll just do this poem. And they're looking it up, trying to find it, right? So it makes those kinds of mistakes. And live, while I was teaching the other day, it was coming up with different things to say. I was showing them how to use it to put in their bullet points under experience. It was in an electrical wiring class. And it spelled on screen the word repair, REPARE. So
Mm.
I'm like, just so everybody knows, I'm like, I'm glad you see this mistake right here. I said, obviously that's not how you spell repair. And it was talking about, wasn't reparation, it was talking about repair. And I said, you cannot trust what it says. And I said, first of
Right.
all, we know if you plug in this in, I can spot an AI journalism article a mile away. And it's because I use it so much. And if nothing else, that's what journalists and editors should use it for, is to
Interesting.
know and to be able to recognize AI speak, how things, they use M dashes correctly every single time. A lot of humans don't do that. You can almost always spot an AI article when you start realizing what you should be looking for. Anyway, okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna get off my
according to
soapbox.
according to AI, I'm living my best life in Brooklyn. So, and I'm male. I'm a male. So,
Okay, interesting.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
it. At a seminar we went to in the college, the ProCon conference in New York City, Nicole and I were there, and Sri Srinivasan gave a talk about AI for journalists as the keynote speaker, and he had searched himself on AI, and it talked about his death from cancer. Sri's not
Oh
ever
my
had
goodness.
cancer, and it talked about he died from cancer, and his friends came out to pay their respects, and he was well loved, and he was standing right there reading it and talking to us about it. So anyway, it's not accurate. Um, so anyway, let's talk about, so I still think that we could probably there's probably going to be other AI sessions at the conference, but if we've got 12 spots, I still think whether you're a freelancer or not, I think AI and journalism should be, there were 3 or 4 sessions on AI for journalism at the ProCon conference, which was at the end of February. So I think we could do one. We'll see how the May webinar goes and what kind of angles we want to take, but I think that would be a good one. Does anybody else have any other ideas that you like really feel strongly about, that you really want to see at this conference? And I'm going to highlight them. I'm going to highlight this one because I love AI so much.
I'd really like to touch on what you said, just our horror stories. I don't know if you're just joking, but I would think it would really be a good session.
I didn't think about it as a session. I was thinking just as like, one of our kind of like a luncheon learns. It could be like a luncheon
Sort of like
ditch.
a casual, okay.
I mean, but I'm not opposed for it to be more if you guys think. I think I'd like to hear from a lot of different people though, rather than just having a couple people. So I think it would actually work better. I want to have some of these casual, not sessions, but these casual lunches, a casual,
Right.
like at a coffee time, like it before the sessions start, like let's say from 8 to 9 a.m. meet us and this is what we're going to be talking about or whatever.
Okay. Okay.
But I
Sounds
do
good.
love that. I think that's a fun idea, and I think that would be.
Just want to make sure you're actually, I just want to make sure you're actually including it because I think it really is a good idea. I agree.
Yeah, let me write it down here. I'm gonna say, what should we call these? Like other, this is other offerings. Now, what I could do is
Horror
say,
stories.
what I could do is say, my list of other offerings. I could go ask ChatGPT, give me a title for this part of our conference, and it would come up with something amazing. And I probably will do that when we get off the phone. So other offerings are going to be like a coffee session. No, coffee morning, lunch and learn, BYOL. And I'm just going to say topics under this. So we're going to call it horror stories, journalism, horror stories.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know if
I
they're
think that's great.
horror or funny. I once got kicked out of Herculaneum, Missouri. Actually, I didn't get kicked out, but they tried to chase me out of Herculaneum, Missouri, because I was doing a story on the lead in the town and how all the kids' lead's levels were way too high, and the lead plant was trying to kick me out. I stood my ground. Anyway, so we could say horror or funny stories, and we can kind of expand on that when we get closer. So some of these other topics, give me your thoughts on these, or if you have other ones just to add right now. I would like to have a sort of a vote on these by the May meeting. So I really want to hear what people think about some of these or add them, so that in May we can really nail down which ones we really want to go forward with. Hazel?
I'm not muted, right?
No, I can hear you.
Good. I got an email from Jennifer Karchmer today. I don't know if any of you remember
I
her.
know her.
Yeah. She was asking about sessions, when the session proposals are due for Media Fest. And I told her that I was going to help in the freelance room, but that I'm not in charge. So I sent her to you, Stacy. But I know that one of the things she's been working on in the last year and a half or two is safety and security for journalists. And what she was proposing was something on the intersection of security and interactions with police officers. I don't know if
Okay,
that's
so safety and security for freelancers, specifically regarding police.
um no, let me see if I can get back to, I just got myself locked out of the Gmail account, so I'm not going to be able to help you here. Let's see. This is what happens when you're 77 and you try to do two things at once, or three or
It
four.
happens to me, and I'm 49, and even when I try to do one thing, sometimes it happens.
My 49-year-old baby is getting married again on April 16th. So if I'm
Aw,
scattered,
Congrats.
that's awesome. I
Um,
love it.
she's talking about reporter safety and police press relations geared toward professionals, staffers, and freelance, as well as students.
So safety and security and police relations,
Police press relations.
police press relations.
Right.
We could include even police and government press relations.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
I'll leave it to that, because is she someone who could speak on it, or she wants to see a session on it? What's her?
no, she presented a webinar in October with the International Women's Media Foundation. And
I like that idea a lot.
okay, then I will tell her that she should definitely talk to you. How's that?
Yeah, I just put it on here, but obviously we'll all vote as a board, and quorum will, rule the day,
Yeah.
like whatever we make sure we have a meeting. Everybody has
Yeah.
been coming to these. We're only missing one or two each time. So we should be able to vote on these for next month. But I really want everybody to think about these, and what do you really want to see? I know James mentioned, they said that they would like to see one for young journalists. I think that that's important. We are going to do, I think Ruth, should present where is it? It's down here, Freelancing 101. That does not necessarily have to be for young journalists. That could be for a 40-year-old freelancer. Well, 40-year-olds are still young. Hello. Okay, that could be for older, middle-aged journalists too. So it doesn't be young journalists. So Freelancing 101, I think, would be different. But breaking into freelancing as a young journalist with no experience, fresh out of school, or while you're in school, I don't know. Do you think that should be different than freelancing? Now that I'm saying it out loud, what are your thoughts on that? Should that be different than the Freelancing 101?
I think that should be like we might be able to overlap somewhat, but I think that should be a different session. And also I'd want to bring in a different like pro to help speak on that. I don't know who that pro would be at the moment. It could be another fellow freelancer, it could be a professor, it could be a lot of folks, but because I think as I'm doing this, as I'm actively, trying to break into this industry as a young person, it could be really intimidating when you're
Yeah.
in a room full of all these highly successful journalists and freelancers who have been in the business for 20 to 70 years, and have all these good credits under the name. That's really intimidating.
Yeah.
And so I think there needs to be a session simply focused on like, oh, where do you start? Like maybe you start via starting a newsletter on Substack. How do you do that? Maybe you start just
Sure.
documenting things around your town, via your socials, and just really aiming it, as you were saying, of that person who's either fresh out of college or still in college, and
Okay.
kind of maybe seeing if this is a route, but with also you know, like giving them expert advice, but not giving the pressure of like, oh, I have to live up all to these standards, or I'm not like these, other journalists who have been doing it forever, and just give them a
Right.
little bit more, um,
And this, James, this could
yeah.
also bring in what we talked about at our last meeting. We spent some time on our discussion about how much is too low. Like what
Yes.
what's the cutoff, right? And maybe having an expert talk on sometimes that's where you have to start. And you just like any
Mhm.
job, you're gonna start at the lower end, right? And if you hear people preaching, hey, don't take these low rates, like you hear me preaching that, well, if you just graduated college, maybe you do for a year or
Mhm.
two, take the low rates, get your name out there, get some, so that might be a great way to address that
Um,
topic as well.
A
I would,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, I would say there's a couple other things too, because I'm still in college and I'm in my undergrad. So the other thing is that like explaining to young journalists that freelancing is probably where they're going to start. That's not something that they're made to know in college. College prepares you to get a job. You ain't going to
Hmm.
get a job after you get out of college, more likely, the way things are. You're going to probably be freelancing for a while before you get a job, right? And so a lot of people don't know how to do that because that's not taught in college, you know? Um, and then the other thing is like we were talking about the rates. There's other ways to get compensated as a beginning level journalist, especially when you're in college. Because sometimes you're in college freelancing not because you just need the money, but because you want to be seen. So there's other things that you can do to get compensation, like being able to write in a specific genre, being able, as a photographer, for example, to be able to build a portfolio of recognizable faces, you know. Um, and then the other thing I would probably say that we should definitely include is newsletters and resources that are not
Yeah.
related to your school, because everybody sends you back to your college and your college has nothing for you.
Mhm.
So most of us that are freelancing in school find jobs from friends, organizations, other places. And if you don't find that out before your fourth year, because you really should be trying to freelance, in your sophomore and junior year. If you're not
Yeah.
finding that before your senior year, it's really difficult.
Mhm.
Okay. I love this idea. I'm just gonna highlight it in here.
Okay.
I think that would be well attended, especially at this conference that we're
They're gonna have some low paying jobs
doing
in there just to gird
students.
yourself there, because that's where we got to start. You know,
Mhm.
Right, right.
And
Um,
I
and I think you can also include the passion projects too. Like I've done
Mhm.
stories that didn't pay anything, or not much because it was important for me to write about it. I really wanted to write about it. So sometimes that could be something you throw in there too with any session we do. But um, I like the young freelance journalists. Is there any others that really stick out to people that you would like to see either on this list or in your head?
Mhm.
Hazel.
I'm sorry.
Just the
That's okay. It's okay. The one that we've got one that oh yeah, building trust as a freelance producer, or sorry, I still say producer because I'm in TV, as a freelance journalist with the
Yes.
presenter of Lynn Walsh. Lynn Walsh is with Trusting News. She may be doing one on her own in her own session. If she isn't, she can maybe do one in our room, but that is one that Hazel, you have talked to Lynn about this, right?
You
Or
know
not
what?
yet?
I think I don't know. We've had some appointments that we've had to go to, and then there's the
Okay.
meeting, and it changes every day.
Well,
So
it's no rush. I just I didn't know if you had
I
had
did,
a,
as far as I remember right this minute, I didn't reach out to Lynn, but I will. I think I
okay.
was waiting to talk with you about whether you wanted me to.
Yeah. And just to give you an update and everybody else here an update, I am talking with Molly, I can't remember her last name now, with Trusting News on Thursday at 3 o'clock, I think. I'm having a conversation with her. She wants the freelance community involved in a future within the next couple of months session on, to partner with us on a webinar. So we're going to talk about that, but we can also, she and Lynn work together, and we can also talk a little bit about this. Are they doing a big session on this at the conference? If they are, we probably don't want to repeat it. She could, there might be another angle that we want them to come and present at a session in our room, in the freelance room, in the freelance track. But I'll get a little bit more information from Molly on Thursday about that.
Well, you
And then
know
I will,
that they've been working on this trust kit. And I know
yeah.
Nicole has seen it, I have seen it.
Yeah.
And I think it's very focused on freelancers. And that's what I was thinking of for this session. And I don't know if they're going to have a room of their own, but if they want to do one on freelancing, I'd love to invite them into our room. But
Yeah, I wonder if it's focused on freelancing, I wonder they might not have the whole session going on that. It might be a little bit of a different angle. Did you call it a trust kit?
yes,
Okay, I'm gonna put that in here. So I'm gonna highlight that one because it's an outside speaker. I'm just gonna
right,
highlight it as we know that would be a good one.
right.
If they're not highlighted, that doesn't mean we're not going to do them. So don't take my highlights for that. I just want to say that we've talked about them, that we like the ideas. Do other people like that? For what you know so far about the Trusting News and that organization, and then building trust as a freelance journalist, is everybody else on board with that? Is that something that you'd be interested in?
Is that building trust with the community or building trust? I mean, what?
With editors, with the
Yeah.
community, with sources, all three.
Okay.
They cover all three in the trust kit.
Okay.
Which is supposed to come out in the next week or two, but who knows?
And I've actually not seen the trust kit as far as I can see in my email.
Oh, because they have your name down as having contributed.
Well, yeah, I did, but I don't know that I've had a,
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
then with you contributing, then they didn't want to have you be a reviewer. That would be my guess.
that would make sense to me.
Yeah, yeah.
But that being said, it just, like I said, in our email thread, it just may be that Trusting News has their own day or their own room to program, and so maybe there's like a joint one, and just whichever room is larger is where
Yeah,
we host it,
yeah,
and we go dark, quote unquote, for that session if it's going
right,
to be focused on freelance.
right.
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
either
So that's
way,
something to navigate. We'll stay.
I,
We'll definitely work with them on it. We'll figure out the logistics as we get closer.
I just think it's part of Freelance 101 that there's not time in Freelance 101 to focus on. You know, you've got these kids, excuse me, James, I don't mean to say this about you. I love you dearly, but the kids don't think about what they have put on social media. Maybe they think more about it now. But I've got people who are, I've got nieces and nephews who are just like ruined for ever getting a job because of things they've put on social media. And so it's more a question of what should you be thinking about while you're a student that is going to help you build trust when you are out there trying to be a freelancer.
Right.
And we
Mhm.
can incorporate that into the Young Freelancers panel. I kind of have a different issue of social media and the fact that like all my Israel, Gaza, Palestine conflict coverage is out there, which is gonna prevent me from doing some stuff. But I feel you. And I
Please,
also want to
please be
ask,
careful. Be careful.
yeah, no, I realized that yesterday at the doxing seminar. I was like, ugh.
I'm
But
sorry I missed it, by the way, and Robert just called me to dinner and I promised. So
oh,
I apologize, but I have to absent myself from this meeting now.
Right.
But I love seeing you guys, and so we'll talk again soon, I hope, and I will watch the rest of the recording so I know what else happened at the meeting.
cool.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Hazel. To
Can I
talk
add to
on
that?
to add on to what Hazel's talking about, and James, in the gaggle this week, sorry, it feels like it's week, it was actually March 19th. There was a message, some of you were on the gaggle, some aren't, but from Chandra Bazelko, who actually is a former fund winner from us, like that. I think we gave her money to come to a conference. She's the president of the Connecticut Pro Chapter, and she said she received an email from an SPJ member with a problem. A TV producer, they applied for a job at CBS News in New York, received an offer. She accepted it. The offer was then rescinded when CBS found blog posts from Trump's first term where she criticized him. The
Ooh.
recruiter was explicit in naming the reason for the rescission: criticism of the president. The
I
member
would hope
asked the
that
Connecticut
is,
Pro Chapter to write a letter asking CBS to reconsider, and then she said she's going to convene a meeting. But everybody, like Bill McCloskey and different people, chimed in and said, talked about why that was totally acceptable and justified for CBS to do that.
no,
As a journalist, like, you will never see me post politically. I cover food. And before that, I did medical stuff. I have done some political stuff, but that's not has never been my main beat. I will never cover anything. I will never say anything on Facebook one way or the other. I might like something that somebody puts on about, I don't know, not deporting people who are here legally, because I'm a socially conscious, good human. But I'm never gonna, put some of the things that you see on there from different people, and not just because I'm a journalist, but that is a main reason. If you are constantly saying on the right or the left, you've lost 50% of your audience, right?
Mhm.
As a journalist. And if they see you're trying to write objectively about an issue in their city, which we all should be objective, which it feels like we're losing that as journalists. But if you're trying to write about a city council meeting or a political anything in an objective way, and then they see your social media that is bashing the president or loving everything that he does out loud, you can clearly see where they stand. CBS has every right to not have that person in their organization when they're trying to maintain the optical, that we are objective journalists. And that is something that I think needs to be reiterated to all journalists, not just young journalists.
I
I'm
agree.
kind
Like
of,
something with that, I would probably say, but like I'm talking about people who are like what I'm running into is concerns with like, oh, I went out and covered an event of
yes.
people,
Oh yeah,
saying, oh,
that's
I'm
different, right?
pro-Palestinian or I'm pro this.
Yeah.
I think though that you draw an important distinction and department line of like, is this your personal opinion or are you like covering other people's personal opinion? Because then that gets into press freedom and
Can I,
Right.
stuff. So
Can
yeah, I
I,
definitely think both of those, both press freedom and covering other people's opinion and then keeping your opinion out of it, are a really good cover.
I'm
can
Um,
I,
actually just gonna throw this on there as it could be your own, its own session.
yeah.
Social media presence, uh, and objectivity for freelancers. I'm gonna put that on there and the importance
Mhm.
of that, and we can use some of these stories. Um, so that was probably
I,
a dream job. Working at CBS News was probably a dream job. She got the job, and then that's it. You're out because of something you posted personally about the president 6 years ago. And that is just the way the world is. Right or wrong, I actually do agree with it. I do not think that you should be posting one way or the other as a journalist on your personal pages so that anybody in your audience or in your readership, in your jurisdiction of who's reading your stuff can see which way you go. You will not be taken as seriously as a journalist. We have to be objective.
Mhm.
can I just say,
That doesn't mean about what you're covering. It's about what you're saying personally
Mhm.
online.
I don't put a lot of personal information online, but that's because I detest social media. But I cover politics, and I am seeing the effect of that.
Mm,
People are weeding out people because they don't. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think a lot of publications lack the courage to defend their journalists because they're
Mm.
more concerned with having access than they are with journalism. And we're seeing that in these jobs, like you're seeing this in these freelance jobs. People are weeding people out. And I'm not talking about for some opinion or something you like. I mean, like, I cover stuff, write articles about the thing, do photos about the thing. And if you have too many of the thing, then you find yourself having a difficult time getting work. And I think that a lot of people don't want
Yep.
to talk about that or discuss that. And they kind of hide behind this idea that, like, and I agree with you. If you're putting your personal business out there, Black folks have a saying, you don't show your ass in public. You don't put your butt out. You don't put your personal information out. But that's, I don't know. I don't know what her story is, but I understand that that is becoming a thing. It's becoming
yeah.
difficult for people to cover
It's good for
journalism
all
fairly.
jobs. I teach this to our students every day. Talk about start cleaning up your social media right now. Do not attach your real name if you've got ridiculous stuff out there. You've got to clean it up. You've got to figure out a way to do that because you will not get hired as a welder, a plumber, a cosmetologist, a journalist, a doctor for all of these reasons. And they're all different, right? They're all different reasons. If you're a cosmetologist and you start throwing all your political opinions out there, you have lost 50% of the country as potential clients. Don't do it, right? And that's just if you're starting your own business. But if you're trying to go out and get your own job, um, as a journalist, as a lawyer, as anything, as a teacher, people are checking your social media. There's nothing illegal about it, and they will tell you, I am not hiring you because of this reason, and that is perfectly legal.
And
Mhm.
it's to the
Yeah.
point now where it's gone even beyond social media. What your actions are in public. If you're doing anything in public, there's cameras all around.
Yeah.
People are recording what people are doing, and then people get fired. I don't know what the legality of that is, but people are getting fired for doing stuff, um, on their own personal time. In a politically charged environment, it's just, it's affecting everything what people are doing. So
I'm just saying that,
even
like, as a reporter that focuses on politics in particular, sometimes you're going to come up against where you have to criticize people because you're writing politics, and that criticism is part of the context of the political environment that you're writing in. And what I'm saying is that, like, a lot of that stuff is more about personal stuff. People, that's the same as if you're showing yourself drunk in the middle of the night.
Right.
What I'm saying is just your basic coverage and you doing your job in an ethical fashion is becoming problematic.
A
I
hundred
And
see.
percent.
that's
Yeah.
something
Like,
that younger journalists are dealing with, because I'm actually trying to write an article about journalists that covered the encampments. So
mhm.
people who did good work went out on a Thursday or Wednesday or average day to cover the encampments. I'll have a body of work that's 90% something else, finding that one story that they wrote that objectively told people what happened is now the reason that they're having a hard time finding work.
I pulled those type of articles, and I'm no longer covering protests, and I pulled all my coverage of the Gaza conflict, and I'm evaluating other coverage of mine, and I'm pulling it completely off my website. I'm completely pulling it off my social medias, and I'm pulling it completely off my portfolio because I'm trying to get a full-time journalism job at the moment. So you're 100% correct, Solomon. And
Wow.
it's tough out here for us, like folks covering
I'm the
politics,
opposite.
and I
I'm
think
putting it
we
all
need to
out.
chat about it more.
But we do need to talk about, especially with young journalists, about how to remove their opinion from the stuff. I think a lot of young journalists don't cover it in a way that's always, I mean, you're supposed to make mistakes in college. You shouldn't be beat up for it. And that's the place you're supposed to do it. You know, you're supposed to
Right.
make those kind of mistakes before you go to the Washington Post or the New York Times. It used to be people would see that stuff and they'd go, okay, we can train them. And now it's, well, you know, maybe somebody might collect it. I mean, there's the federal government just came out with an announcement that they're going to be looking through the social media of people who have passports and journalists. So they're going to be looking through our social media to decide whether or not we can cover the White House, right? It's coming. And so I'm
Mm.
just saying that that's something that young journalists need to discuss. There may not be a solution to it, but they at least need to be
Yeah.
prepared by discussing it.
I like this a lot as a session. I'm kind of just adding words to it, but I've got social media presence and objectivity for freelancers, and then in parentheses I put social media, staying objective, backlash for solid journalism on protests and other divisive topics. There's more in there. I'm just kind of getting the main gist of it, just putting that down. So that's in the document now. And James and Solomon, I put your names after it just so we can kind of refresh our memories as we're going through our list of the conversation and the voices on that conversation. So,
Okay, and I also write about it I want to write about it as a political scientist as well. So I'm not just it's not just opinion for me. You know, I write it from.
okay, maybe this is one that you present then, Solomon.
Oh, I don't know
Um,
about that, but
okay,
yeah.
never mind.
Well, I may not be able to be there. That's why. I mean, if I
Oh,
knew I
yeah,
was going to be there, I would say that. But
sure. Okay, okay.
this is something that
Um,
young journalists need to consider because like you're like James, this other young lady, James, are having to consider that stuff. I'm doing the opposite. I'm taking all of my stuff and making sure that it's washed of opinion, which it is, and then
mm,
posting it out there. I'm not trying to hide it so that I know that I'm willing to. But I mean, you have to make those kind of decisions for yourself. But I think that the conversation is being aware of what's going on, that this is not a journalism environment where people are hiring you just on the merit of your skill, right, anymore. There is a lot more involved in the decision making process that's more obvious than
right.
it was before.
Okay. Yeah.
And I can work with you more, Solomon, on that. Because like I'm gonna be in DC, like I'm just gonna be there. That's where I'm moving to, that's my new home. But
Got it.
we can maybe even do a webinar or something, or like
Yeah.
work together to flush this topic more out.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's related to that as well is there's two other topics I wanted to talk about that you might want to look at. There's an increase in the buildup of not-for-profit news. There are a lot of not-for-profit news organizations that have produced a large amount of work, particularly in Los Angeles, at least in my area. Like Nicole starting her own publicate has her own publication, and a lot of these little not-for-profit places um, will be the future. They're going to be the places that are hiring. So that's something that people overlook, I think. So, and then maybe Nicole can speak more to that about the process of starting that. Maybe like people want to start that kind of stuff. That's a little bit bigger project. And then the other thing was the newsletters and stuff. I mean, Jim Acosta is now on, you know, after he left, that guy decided not to go find another job, but is on, you know, the what is it? What is it? God, I just had his name, the name of the website in my head. Um, Substack.
I was gonna say, I think you're talking about Substack. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like, you know, it has been something that a lot of us have seen either jobs from. That's like one of the number one places most of us follow somebody that has a Substack. Um, oh, okay. So Nicole made a comment there. I see. She said that was referencing what I was talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah. Like I already present, and I one of my goals is to try to get some folks from the Institute for Nonprofit News at Media Fest, like just since I'm broadly coordinating Media Fest as well. So
Okay.
yeah. I don't know if there's like necessarily a session there, like from freelancer to like starting your own. I don't know, because I kind of fell into it, it feels like.
It's
Well,
interesting that you fell
it
into
could
it
be
like that.
not necessarily freelance or starting your own, but I think what Solomon's saying is that it could be, this could, just to make sure that people, up and coming journalists, even seasoned journalists, know, let's look somewhere else. Unusual place, not unusual, but off the beaten path, right? Like, are you looking at nonprofit news? Are you looking at newsletters? Where are you for jobs, for paying jobs as a freelancer? There are other places you can do journalism, and not necessarily content, or blogging, where you can do journalism, where you can get paid, that you might not be thinking about. Is that what you're talking about, Solomon?
Yeah, that's one of it. And then again, like starting it, like a lot of people are starting their own not-for-profits, like LA Public News, or I think it's called LA Public News, started one that's huge, and they're getting a lot of
Mm,
accolades and attention for their work. They're hiring people, they're paying decent wages, so these not-for-profits are not these small, like Capital in Maine, which I just did something for. So like these are not small places that um, maybe most people haven't heard of them, but they're going to be the alternative places that people go to get news from. And I think a lot of journalists in their starting out in their career are looking for ABC and Fox and whatever and Washington Post and New York Times, and they limit themselves to 7 places. And there are lots of places that can hire you and pay you an equitable wage,
yeah.
right?
So I actually like both of those on the same session. Um, Nicole, I know you're doing the grant writing for journalists, which is a little different than what this one could be, but you could consider, I'm just throwing this out there, um, presenting your story, what you did, because it's such a unique story. You could present what you did, um, and talk about the success of it. And who knows who's sitting in there that could inspire, that could inspire someone to, I'm going to start one too. I'm going to do this too. Or, hey, don't overlook nonprofit news sources or agencies, so that you, as a freelance prospect, as a client, um, I think you could, I don't know. I'm just gonna throw it out there, Nicole. Don't
So
make a decision, but
I already do kind like my building trust and engagement, like um is like talking about what we've done and the steps we've taken and just how I've built um the Owen News. So I wouldn't want to present on that same
I see.
thing
Okay.
again. Yeah. And that one's, cleverly titled Trust Me, I'm a Nonprofit Journalist. Um,
Okay.
but then I think that there definitely could be, because sometimes I think people think nonprofit news, A, doesn't pay, or B, um, doesn't have like a lot of freelance opportunities. And there is actually like a growing market for that. And some of the freelance, like the nonprofit news outlets, not mine, can pay really, really well. Um, I'm in like a really small rural community, right? So like my market, my donor base, my advertising base, like all of those are way different than, something in like LA,
Right.
where if you just get the right couple people, you've funded it. Um, but but even then, like not to discount like internships or opportunities at some of the smaller, and this is kind of like something where we've talked about it, like some of the smaller, lesser paying ones, because if I'm going to give a freelancer a story and I know I can only pay him $100, I'm going to give him something really easy that's a couple phone calls and can be like a really nice starting clip for them.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and then mentor them as much as I can, right? Like, so that's what I can give, since I can't give monetarily, but there's reporting positions at nonprofit newspapers that pay more than I make as an editor. I mean, some of them are upwards of 75 to 80 grand a year.
Yeah,
Mm.
I've seen a lot of them. They were very tempting to get out of school for, but but yeah,
Mhm.
they pay a lot. And
Yeah,
but the other thing too is that, like Nicole was saying when I was mentioning before when we were talking uh to James, a lot of the stuff is about what you can get from the paper as well. Being mentored by somebody like Nicole is not something you might get from the Washington Post, even though they do have these kind of mentorship programs, you know, or the LA Times. They're not going to have the time and the effort and the energy that to be as personable and to help you guide your career and get you started as fast, you know. So that's something else to talk about. And then the other thing was the newsletters, because a lot of people are looking at websites, and websites are like a generation ago, and like a lot of people are just doing newsletters now and really using those as their clip collection
yeah.
and their clip production. I know somebody that just started their own newspaper, um, and it's just them and some photos, and that kind of stuff is really what people are looking for to see if you can be self-starting and kind of a complete package.
And just to throw this out there, we just started 16 episodes ago. We just started a podcast to go along with our TV show and the website. And Tangi, we just had a season 11 kickoff meeting yesterday, and she I don't do much on the podcast other than promote it in the newsletter, but we're getting people like Eric Asimov, the wine critic from the New York Times, on the podcast, and she's got some kind of bigger people like that. And she is saying we need to really focus on the podcast, even though we've been doing this TV series for 11 years, but that kind of, runs, it's a well-oiled machine now. But she said all the advertising dollars are in podcast right now for her specifically. She's got a lot of people who are not interested in advertising on the TV show. And as soon as you say you've got a podcast, they are throwing money at it. So that's just another thing to look at for people who are broadcast journalists, to, even if you were trained as a TV reporter, TV producer, to think about the podcast hustle.
Is the Institute of Independent Journalists still joining us?
So that is, we have not approached them yet. When we sort of decide and get some of our topics ready, if there are any topics that we'd like to reach out to them on and just see if they would like to be a part of it, or if they have any ideas, I think we'll have that conversation then. I talk to Hazel a little bit more about that. So before we sort of approach them and see what their interest would be. But no, we haven't reached out to them yet. I
Okay,
do
I
want to
can
make sure
just
that we have some diversity in some of these sessions too, and making sure that we've uh have topics that are representative of all journalists. So we need to make sure that we're cognizant and sensitive to that.
The other thing I would say, oh, I'm sorry, James, were you gonna say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, so I have the inside scoop on this because I write IIJ's newsletter, and
Yeah.
right now they're looking for like rolling out like all the different conferences that they plan on, that they're like planning out all the different conferences that they like want to attend, and want to host freelancer meetups at. I know one of the big things right now is there's a new like IIJ freelance quick start guide, which might go really well with the freelance 101. But I just wanted to put out that that is also like conference things, and getting conferences like conference sessions together is also on the radar. So it is a good thing that
Okay.
is also on our radar. But I just kind of wanted to provide that insight.
Yeah, that's great. Yes, and we do hope that I also don't want if they want to do their own thing and they've got 3 or 4 sessions that they're presenting and want to just take complete ownership of, I don't want to get in the way of that at all. I don't want to dictate what somebody else does at all, but I think at some point here, as we get a little bit closer, we need to reach out and just talk to them about we don't have the same deadlines as other people. I don't think, Nicole can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but the session deadlines, which should be happening soon, really soon, actually, to pitch session ideas for this conference should be happening soon. But I do think if we have our own room, we don't have that same kind of deadline. We still need to put together a list and say, here's what we're offering. Here's a description of each of them. Here are the people that are going to be presenting. We still need to do that work, but we have a little bit more leeway. Usually we are scrambling in February to get these all written up, speakers confirmed, all of that stuff for the conference in September. And that seems to not be the case this year, right? Nicole, do you know the deadline?
No, I don't. Michael and I need to meet on that. Truthfully, we were waiting for CMA and ACP to have their spring conferences.
Okay.
So that was at the end of February and the beginning of March. And then I know Michael has been knee deep in Stillwater Awards, but that just ended.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think his schedule's opening up a bit. And I'll be reaching out to him about that.
Okay. So it's 7:26, so I'm gonna let everybody go. Thank you all for sticking around. I feel like we could talk about this for a day. But I appreciate you sticking around through this. If I can ask you, and I'll send an email out about this too, if I can just ask you to go in, add some thoughts, or make your own list at home of, okay, I really like these 8 topics, so that when we come together in May, you can have, I like this one and this one and this one. We can kind of rank them where we want to. So if we end up with 10, but we've got 13 that we like, but we're really only going to have 10 sessions, we need to know what order. I just want to start narrowing it down. Though I've highlighted the ones that we've talked about tonight. In that Google Doc, the shared Google Doc that you should all have access to, I will send out another email with the link again. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that we talked about tonight that are highlighted on there. That doesn't mean that those 6 are definitely going to get in. I'm just saying we need to continue to make progress on these every time we meet. I wish we could meet once a week. I say that, but then I wouldn't be able to. But I do wish we could talk about this more. If you have, I'm not gonna highlight it yet, because I think we need to flush out the idea more. But I did put on here nonprofit news, newsletters, community newspapers, and off the beaten opportunities as a freelancer.
You need to add. Sorry.
Well, say it again.
I was going to say, considering the environment, you guys might want to add papers for communities of color or minority communities.
Yep.
I think so. Stacy and I talked about this while we were in New York. I think a session that like gives freelancers the permission to take non-journalism jobs to pay the bills, right? Like non-journalism freelance jobs, is a good one, because before I was involved with the freelance community, my interpretation would have been, well, like that's well and good that I'm freelancing in other areas, but I'm not a freelance journalist anymore. Um, Even though in reality, most freelance journalists have their passion projects and also do whatever copywriting freelance gig they have to help pay the bills.
That
Or
would be
just
a
straight
great.
out survival jobs. I mean, I just lost my survival job, but it wasn't in journalism, and I'm really salty that I lost it, but yeah, that's a thing.
I don't mean to laugh. I just like it when people use the word salty.
No, that's totally valid. It was because I worked in DEI stuff and I'm incredibly openly gay and at a public university, and that was I technically quit, but like I kind of had to because it's Ohio, but yeah, that
Yeah.
was paying the bills and now that's
Yikes.
not.
I do want to say though, like that's something that is also something that young journalists need to talk about, because there are a lot of publications for the LGBTQ community, people of color, and these other communities that are looking for people. They're looking for help. They're willing to pay,
Yeah.
and people are whispering their names like they're something to be whispered in the shadows. And so like doing that kind of work does not make you less of a journalist. It just means that you're a journalist with a very specific subject, and that's kind of how I
You know,
explain it.
that could be a super, I've highlighted that one now. I've actually expanded that. We'll obviously come up with better topics. You guys, I'm on a meeting, so zip it. Nonprofit news, newsletters, outlets for communities of colors, outlets for marginalized communities, community newspapers, and off the beaten opportunities. As a freelancer, obviously the title will not be that. But that, if we did a session on that and also could put together all of the outlets rather than just directing somebody to our resource guide where you can go up and look up all the 500 outlets. If we can have a list, a collection of LGBTQ outlets, Black voices, Hispanic, Indigenous, if we can have a list of that where people can come and they will walk away with, hey, I didn't even know these exist. I'm in the Black community. I didn't even know these two organizations or these two outlets existed. That would be a great takeaway, I think, to offer people.
I'll talk to a publisher.
Yeah, I'm putting your name on that, Solomon. I know you may not be at the conference. I'm just gonna put your name on that as the sort of the person who spearheaded this. But I'm highlighting that one because I think that could be a great session.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think we need to
Put
have
them
a
on the
couple of
panel.
presenters on that session, where we represent 2 or 3 different groups of people, presenting that. So,
Okay, yeah, I think that would be a great idea. I think that also should be, as a side note, but I'll talk about that later. But we should try to get more of those publications in our main list too.
yeah, yep, I agree. Okay, we really probably should wrap this up because I know some of you are probably hanging on, wishing that we would go so you could go eat dinner. Please look at this. Please think about what ones you really like. There's several that we didn't talk about at all that are very valuable and worthy topics. And I'm sure that you have some ideas in your head that you haven't talked about yet that we can add. We could have a list of 30 or 40 of these and then narrow it down to 10 or 12. So keep adding to the list. If you come up with something, it could be that your idea we pair with something else. I love the more ideas, the better. And it can also be work for webinars. And we could just, okay, let's do these 5 next year. So let's keep looking at it and hopefully we can get a little bit, narrow it down a little bit more during our May meeting.
Okay,
Cool.
Okay, I love it. I love these meetings. I really love session planning. It's my jam. I love it so much. So, if you do want to like talk about any of these before May, I will make time for you. I would love to have more conversations about this if anybody wants to chat about it. Also, James, Alex, Nicole, and I should, I'm just going to say it before we leave, we should plan our next social media meeting. We should do that in the next maybe couple of weeks, maybe mid-April or so.
Yep, I'll send out a doodle poll.
Awesome. Okay. And just kind of see where we are with that and get things going. And also start drumming up interest and excitement for the conference too on our social platforms.
okay.
Cool.
And then I will be trying to see if I can get there. I'm still working on that.
All right. Well, I'm hoping that we all will. We'll have a big party. Listen,
that'd
if
be
you show
nice.
up late and disheveled, you might get that suite again, Solomon. Wear your
I know.
uniform. Be amazing.
Yeah, I can't even fit in my uniform anymore. It would be sad.
Listen, I haven't had a kitchen since October 1st. It is still being renovated. And all we do, we just ordered out just again tonight. We order food out all the time. So my bank account is dwindling and my waistline is expanding. So I cannot wait. Our oven arrives, I think my husband said tomorrow or the next day. I don't know, but we haven't had an oven since October 1st. So I'm hoping as soon as we get one, I'll start to lose weight. So I'm with you on the
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go order some pizza on that note.
Yeah, perfect. I got Indian food waiting for me. Okay. Loved this meeting. Thank you. And I'm gonna stop recording and then we will